Hi, welcome to the Contra Costa County and Tri-Valley Eldercare channel. My name is Stephanie. I work with Horizon Elder Law and Estate Planning, and today I'm here with Katharina Dress with Aging in Harmony. Welcome, Katharina.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
You're welcome. So Katharina works in elder mediation, and she acts as a facilitator, a conflict coach, a trainer. She's basically a non-attorney mediator, which is such an awesome resource for people, when they're having family conflicts and things like that don't really need an attorney. And I work in a law office, and I know there are times where attorneys are necessary, but I also understand that they're not always necessary. And there are sometimes ways of getting through things without paying top dollar, like attorney's fees, when it's not absolutely necessary. So welcome again, and I'd like to invite you to share a little bit more about your background and how you got into this field.
Yes, thank you. My background is a little different than most mediators. A lot of mediators started out either as attorneys or as therapists, and they often specialize in family matters, but with family members of all ages. I started kind of from the opposite end. I decided later in life that I wanted to make a career change into the aging field, and I shopped around to see what professions are available there, and then I found that there is such a thing as elder mediation, which most people don't know exists. And it really spoke to me because I wanted to work in aging, and I wanted to bring my life experience to my work. And I also, my entire life, have worked in consensus-based organizations. So it was really natural to me to want to bring people together. And so I shopped around and found out how you become a mediator. It's not a regulated field in California. So I took some trainings in mediation and some trainings in advanced trainings in elder mediation. And then I volunteered a lot for different mediation agencies just to get experience. And then about 10 years ago, I started Aging in Harmony.
That's great. Well, thanks for letting us in on your background. So what exactly does an elder mediator do?
Well, there's a big range. The only difference between what's commonly known as family mediators is that rather than specializing on conflicts among younger families, around kids' custody, all that kind of thing, we specialize on any kind of conflicts that happen on the journey of aging. Most of the time, it's between family members, either among the between the adult family members, children, and their parents, or between the siblings, fighting about what should happen to mom or dad or the estate. But it could also be among, service providers, like home care agencies sometimes get stuck in the middle between the older adult and the bill-paying children, or in senior housing that can be conflict. So any conflict on the journey of aging, I try to bring the people together who are involved in the conflict, get them to the table, and then help them hear and understand each other and come up with solutions that meet everyone's needs.
That's great. So why would a client contact you rather than an attorney? Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah. So the attorney mediators who work in this field specialize in legal conflicts, like about estate battles or probate battles or conservatorship battles, that kind of thing. My mission really is help families and others resolve their conflicts so they don't escalate to that level.
That's great. So who is the primary person that contacts you normally?
Most of the time it's the adult children. They are, I think, typically the people, there's one in every family who takes the initiative on pretty much anything that needs to be planned around an aging parent's plans for the future. I think as estate planners, you probably have the same experience, that it's usually an adult child. But it could be, somebody from a home care agency, or it could be the elder themselves. More and more I see that the aging parents themselves somehow get the idea that somebody like me exists and seek help, because one thing that's really important to people at the end of their life is to leave their family in harmony.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So what are the most common issues that people call you about?
So I work with people, as I mentioned before, anywhere on the journey of aging. So more and more I see that people contact me early on when they think it's time to make plans for the parents' future, whether it's legal plans, financial plans, plans about housing. And so at that point, they often feel stuck. They don't know how to bring it up to the parents. And so at that point, I offer something that I call facilitated family meetings, that the family comes away with a plan of what to do moving forward. And then, so that's one part. That's happening more and more. I really love that when people contact me before there is a crisis. Then the more typical mediation is often about some sort of transitions, whether it's time to give up the car keys, whether it's time to accept help in the home, whether it's time to maybe move from a home where a parent may live alone after a spouse passed away, whether it's time to move into assisted living. All those kinds of transition times usually lead to resistance and conflict.
So how many sessions would a typical elder mediation take?
That's a very good question. There is no typical elder mediation. I've done anything between 1 session and 6 sessions with the same family, but I think more often than not, what's a good number of sessions is 2, because in the first session, people really learn to hear and understand each other and start discussing the issues, and then they discover what they don't know. And so then we can make a plan as to what resources they need to contact and what information they need to gather before they can make informed decisions. And then we come back for a second session with that information and really make decisions. So that's the most common.
Great. So how long does one of these sessions take?
Typically 3 hours. People think that's a really long time. And it's happened that it's just 2 or 2.5, but I always allow people to, ask people to allow at least 3 hours, because the first round of discussion is really to help people hear and understand each other and just agree on what the issues are. And only after that understanding has been created can we really start brainstorming possible solutions and discuss those. So it takes time. Sometimes we go 4 hours, but I never go longer than 4 hours. I think that's just too much time. Some mediators mediate all day long. I think that's just too much time for people to really be fully present. So at that point, I'd recommend scheduling another session.
Yeah, that sounds totally appropriate. So when and where would you conduct your mediations?
That really depends. It's different from family to family. Sometimes it's in the parent's home, if that's most convenient to everybody involved, and if it feels like a safe, neutral place to all participants. But sometimes that's not a good place at all for one reason or another. So then I arrange a neutral, private meeting space that's geographically close to wherever the client lives.
Great. So should people contact you even if they doubt that the conflicted party might agree to mediation?
Absolutely, yes. For 2 reasons. Number 1, the first step is to just have a complimentary hour-long conversation with me, and people always tell me after that conversation they have a greater sense of relief and clarity. So even if I can't help them, they can benefit from it, and I may be able to give referrals. Second thing is, I think it's very common that if people are in conflict, they can't imagine that they can come to the table together and reach an agreement. But I have some tricks in my bag of tricks that may help them actually come to the table. And the third reason is that even if we can't bring people to the table, I offer something that I call conflict coaching, which is a series of phone sessions where I teach some of my communication skills to the person who wants to change the dynamic, and that can really change the whole family dynamic.
Great. Are you able to initiate conversations before there's a conflict about concerns on aging?
Yes, absolutely. I just last week I facilitated a meeting with 2 daughters of a gentleman who's aging on the East Coast and is home by himself, and they're concerned about it. So they were there and their husbands were there, and they started out saying, we just want information, but they realized it's really more than that. It's information, it's resources, and it's reaching agreements about what are the next steps that they're willing to take and who's going to take them.
Great. So what kind of training do you have to go through to become an elder mediator?
So as I mentioned earlier, there is no requirement in California, but I've been involved in the elder section of the National Mediators Association, and we highly recommend that mediators who work in this area have advanced specialized elder mediation training. So everybody starts out with a basic mediation training and then gets practice however they can, and then after a while taking the advanced elder mediation training so that you really know what the issues are and how they can be addressed. Because one of the big challenges in this area is that we don't know what aging is like until we get there. So having training that helps us understand those issues is really important to me.
Absolutely, that's great. So we had talked before, and you mentioned compassionate communication. Can you elaborate a little bit about what that means?
Yes. So thank you for asking about that, because that's another training that I've been taking actually for 8 years, because initially I just took a training in it thinking, okay, another set of tools in my toolbox is always helpful, but it's really transformed my professional and personal life. And what I discovered is this particular mode of communicating helps people get out of their heads and into their hearts, and so it's something that's effective with people who are somewhere on the journey of dementia, who can't really make rational decisions anymore. And just for full disclosure, the gentleman who developed this kind of communication was Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, and he called it nonviolent communication. I prefer to call it compassionate or empathic communication because I like to focus on the positive, what we want, and not what we don't want.
Yeah, that's great. So I understand you offer trainings. What types of trainings do you offer?
Yes, I offer workshops anywhere from an hour to a whole day or even a weekend. Some are customized for people who work in the aging fields, like for instance home care agencies may hire me to train their staff to learn some of the tools that I use. But I also offer public workshop series that I call heart-to-heart conversations about the challenges of aging, where again I teach some of the tools kind of bite-size, especially compassionate communication tools, how they can be used in aging-related conflicts or tensions or overcoming communication barriers.
That's great. So you say you do these public talks. If you have them scheduled, do you have some way of notifying people if they want to go find out when an upcoming event is?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have any dates right now because we're in the beginning of the year and I'm still making the plan for this year. But you can always look at my website at www.aginginharmony.com. There's an event section there, and there's also another tab that says Let's Stay in Touch. If you click on that, you can email me and ask to be added to my email list, and then you'll just get one email a month inviting you to upcoming events.
Thanks. So now you're in the East Bay Area and you go all over the Bay Area, but perhaps somebody's watching from somewhere further. So how would somebody go about finding an elder mediator somewhere other than the Bay Area?
Yes, and I'll answer that question twofold. I can work with people anywhere if the older adult isn't involved themselves, because I find the younger generation is comfortable enough with Skype or whatever, and the families typically are so spread out anyway that often, you know, one or more participants participate through technology. So that's just one thing. But if you want to find somebody in your area, I recommend you go on the website www.mediate.com, and there you can click on what type of mediator you're looking for. There's a section for adult family mediation and a section for elder mediation. And you can also enter your area code or your city, so you'll find somebody in your area.
That's great. So I feel like we've covered a lot of issues. Is there anything that I missed that you really want to share with our audience?
No, I don't. I can't think of anything right now. Maybe the main thing really to bring home is that the majority of people I work with, their parent or aging loved one is somewhere on the spectrum of dementia, and that's a big, big, big challenge. And the kind of work I do can be really, really helpful there, because when people are already there, the rational approach doesn't work anymore. But early to mid-stage dementia, they're not so far gone yet that you can just make decisions for them either. So it's really important to involve them in the decision-making process at that stage to overcome resistance, and that's where something like what I offer can really be helpful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all this really helpful information, and it's been great getting to know you better and learning more about your practice in Aging in Harmony. We just want to give you a little bit more information. She is on the Eldercare channel. A link to her website is on there, also your phone number, and any social media sites that she's on will all be linked and tied to the Eldercare channel. So feel free to look around her page, and if you have any other questions, you can always contact our office, and our information is also on the Eldercare channel. We thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.